Hey guys, welcome back to the 1v1 podcast. I am your host Vlhadus, and today I have someone I literally just met today. And so we brought him on. He wanted to come on the podcast, talk about Ashes, talk about everything Ashes related, MMO related, just the whole shebang. So I have with me Baneful Tiger. What is going on, man? How's it going?
How's it going, Vlad? It's good to be on here, and thanks for having me, especially on such short notice.
Oh yeah, no, I this is what I try to tell people, man. Like, so after this next week, you actually come at the best time because next week I start my new job, and Monday through Friday is going to be a lot more hectic than what it currently was. Because right now, like, I had a work from home job, so I was pretty much available at all hours, pretty much. So as long as my wife would let me. so basically, outside of that, I was good. But so the one question I want to ask you is, like, what's your gaming history like? Like, what MMOs have you played? Like, what's your history of gaming like?
Oh boy, do you want the short answer or the long answer?
I mean, it's up to you, man. We're this is a
Okay.
podcast. I'm sure people would love the long answer.
True. All right. Well, it started a long time ago, almost 2 decades ago, actually. My first game I ever really played was actually a turn-based strategy game, Lords of the Realm. My older brother played it so as a kid, and he wasn't hogging the computer. I would hop on and play for a little bit. It was pretty cool. A lot like Age of Empires in a way.
Gotcha.
But of course, it was turn-based instead of real time. And then from that, I ended up getting into RuneScape, also because of my older brother.
Gotcha.
He was one of the first 2,000 players on RuneScape when it came out, I think 2002 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
So he got in real early and, of course, got me into it. And that was my first MMO and really the first game that I actually got addicted to and really got me into gaming.
Right.
I just loved the sort of the endless possibilities. You go in and make the world whatever you want it to be, and that really hooked me. So from there, I ended up, of course, my parents didn't like me gaming a lot, so
What parent didn't?
right, yeah, classic problem. I'm sure we can all relate to.
Right.
So,
Classic first world problem. My mom was the same way. I was a Halo 2 player, and every time she's like, "You're still on that Halo game?" And I'm just like, "Yes, mom, leave me alone."
oh yeah. So speaking of Halo, actually, once I did get a little bit older and I was no longer gaming on the PC, I ended up getting Xbox and got into Halo.
Oh, dude.
My brother, he really started back at Halo CE, but
Combat
I
Evolved.
didn't really
Yep.
get into it until Halo 2. And at the time, like I had quite some stiff competition. Him and his roommate, at the time, they played a lot. He was a top 500 SWAT player for a long time, like
Ah,
2 years or so.
I was the
And
best SWAT
so,
player ever. I'm just joking.
right,
No, I
yeah.
was really good at SWAT though. I was really good.
Oh yeah, I loved it. Well, I had to be because I played with him and his roommate wasn't top 500, but he was really good too. And so,
Right.
even though I was fairly new to Halo and just shooters in general, the only thing I'd played before that is like real-time strategy, and of course RuneScape.
Right.
I just, you had to get better. You didn't play. And that actually took me away from MMOs for a while. I really got into Halo 3, ODST, Reach, and then 4. And then after 4, when Bungie sold out and started to make Destiny,
Right.
I got into Destiny. And that's
Interesting,
really
okay.
where, I don't know if you saw my Discord profile, but it says in there a little brief thing about me. And part of it is that I used to be a top 10 ESO player and a top 200 Destiny player.
I did see that.
Yeah, so my Destiny days are where it also says temporarily retired hardcore gamer, just to go with the casual now. So,
That's literally me right now. I feel you.
Unfortunately, I would be a lot more competitive and hardcore if I didn't work so much. As is, I game when I can, and I also have other hobbies like snowboard and stuff like that. So
Nice, man. Do you have a family?
Yeah. No, nope. Just a girlfriend and a
It's gonna
couple of
get
roommates.
worse.
So.
It's gonna get worse when you get a family, man. Just telling you
Oh,
now.
yeah,
Just
I
telling
can
you now.
imagine. I'm just fingers crossed that's not till after I'm well into Ash the Creation and
I
I've no life
know.
that for a bit. So.
Dude, that's my whole fear, man. Because like I want kids, and we already have a kid. Man, she's 5, and I'm like, I'm gonna be 36, dude. Like, it's so weird to say that out loud, but I'm gonna be 36 this year, and
Man.
it's just one of those things that, like, my wife's 2 years younger than me, so it's like, okay, we could wait, but like the longer we go, like it's just gonna be like geriatric pregnancy, so it's like,
Yeah.
oh, like I hate the fact that it's like so close, because it's like I feel like Ash is gonna come out like 2024, like maybe 2025, like for the official release. And I just feel like, oh my god, that's like the time I'm thinking of having a kid, which is like, no. But it actually might work in my
Oh man,
favor,
yeah.
because what I can do is have a kid and then be up all night and just play Ashes and just like have the baby here in my game room and just do that. That's like,
Yeah, that way you're gonna be up all night anyway. So.
I know, it's like, might as well do that. Like that's what I was sort of thinking anyway.
Right, yeah, you might be onto something there. Um, yeah, or I don't know, depending on where you work, if you get maternity leave, that could be,
Oh,
right when
true. I mean,
Ashes comes out, take 3 months off, and.
right. That's what, and again, like, it's all about those gives and takes, and we'll talk about Ashes in a moment. But I want to get into your Destiny time, and I want to get into
Yeah.
ESO. So those are the two things I want to get in, because I want to see, you know, where your MMO personality really resides. And I'm
Okay.
sure you, by describing those two experiences, will let me know more of that.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll kind of run through real quick and then loop back because there's two different things I want to cover.
Right.
So yeah, Destiny was the one where I really started to get competitive, and I did for quite a while only PvP, and then when I started to get bored of PvP, trials, Iron Banner, all that, I really got into raiding. And
Right.
anyone that's played Destiny, vanilla Destiny, not 2, will almost all agree that the original Vault of Glass was by far the best raid.
Right.
Unfortunately, I didn't get into raiding until really after Crota's End had come out, which was the next raid. So that was the raid I did the most, even though I preferred Vault of Glass over Crota's End. But yeah, I ended up having over 200 Crota's End completions, and a lot of those were solo, because we found out there's ways to glitch through the raid. It's a 6-man raid. If you do it right and you're using the right character and the right weapons, you can do it by yourself. And I slowly worked that time. Yeah, it went from like, I was a day one when the raid dropped. That's what got me into raiding, actually. On the day it dropped, a bunch of teams assembled and everyone's racing to be the world first to finish it. The world first, I think, ended up being like 8 hours or something. My own team from my clan and myself, we were in there for like 12 and a half hours before we finally beat it.
Damn.
But yeah, by the end of it, like 3-4 months later, and I finally got tired of raiding, I was able to solo the raid in under 20 minutes. It was quite the time. But it was a time in my life where it was perfect, because I'd just come back from college, and I was working at Buffalo Wild Wings, just as a cashier and then as a server. So
I got you.
I would work like doubles one day, but then I'd have a day or two off, or most of a day off. And so I pretty much gamed 6 to 8 hours a day most of the days of the week. And
yeah, my
I got up there.
Buffalo Wild Wings was actually Walgreens. That's where I worked in my 20s.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yep.
after work, I would come home, play WoW. I mean, WoW was my game like for 15 years. So I mean, that was raiding twice a week for 15, not 15 years, because I didn't raid in the beginning part of my career, but once Wrath came around, that's when I started raiding in World of Warcraft, and I never stopped. So
that's actually the only time I ever played WoW, was right after Wrath the Lich King dropped. I tried out WoW for a little while. This was I'd had some buddies that really wanted me to try it, and so I
Right.
gave it a shot. I feel like I didn't give it enough of a shot because I only got to like level 29 or something.
Right.
I played a Death Knight, and I really wanted to enjoy it, but I think it was just too much of a transition for me coming from a first-person shooter to that, um, and so I never really got into it past that. Um, and then, of course, well, once I got into ESO, um, that was the MMO for me, and I never picked up WoW after that happened. So, yeah, so Destiny kind of came to a close when I heard about the Division coming out. I really have always liked the idea of sort of an open world, um, uh, high risk, high reward um, area where there's PvP, and it doesn't have to be forced PvP; it could be optional. And Division with their Dark Zone had that. Um, so I quit Destiny to play Division, and Division ended up flopping a little bit. I know it got better later, but early on, um, it kind of lacked the end game appeal for a lot of people, because after when you drop 40 50 hours into it in the first week it was out, you're already burning out on it, and the game just launched. So I played it for about a month and a half and then quit.
Okay.
But I did decide that was the point I was going to move away from shooters, and that's when I got into ESO.
So that was my
uh,
question actually is, Halo, Destiny, that all makes sense. It's a very, linear path. RuneScape to WoW. I would say that WoW and RuneScape are, especially back in Wrath at that time, were sort of on the same side of the coin, but not really. There was a lot of things that, and I never played RuneScape, so I really can't speak from experience, but they do seem like two different MMO experiences.
yeah, that's kind of, granted I didn't play enough WoW to really get an
Right.
accurate idea, but from talking to other people and the limited experience I did have, yeah, they're definitely two different MMOs.
So
Of course,
what I,
MMO to MMO is easier than first-person shooter to MMO, but yeah, it's
So what I am curious about though is ESO is a very different MMO. If you were comparing like Final Fantasy 14, Guild Wars 2, World of Warcraft, I
oh
mean,
yeah.
it's very very different. So I'm curious, was it like friends that said, "Hey, come try ESO out," or did you just do it all by yourself and found it to just be a game that really catered to you? Like, I'm
You
curious.
know, it's funny because I had seen the original. I don't know if you've seen the movie trailer for Elder Scrolls Online. Um, it's really cool. It's like
I don't think
40
I
minutes
did.
long or an hour long or something, but it's a
Holy
very good
crap.
cinematic. Yeah.
That's
Um,
crazy.
I don't know if the original one was that long, but they added some new ones. So if you go watch the whole thing, it's like an hour long now or something like that. But
Jesus.
yeah, when it first came out, that was what kind of pointed my interest towards ESO. But I didn't actually start playing it because I was playing Destiny at the time, and or maybe it was Halo. I don't even remember. But I was really into the game I was playing, and so I talked to my brother about playing it, and he was into it because we played Oblivion and Skyrim and everything.
Right.
But he had actually played Morrowind as well. I hadn't though. Um, but yeah, we're like, well, yeah, it'd be cool to try out. But then because of the games we were wrapped up in, we didn't hop on the thing on the launch of it on PC. But a little while after that, I'm not sure how long, it launched on console on Xbox, which is where I
Okay.
played Destiny. And that was right when I had gone from Destiny to Division, and I was getting bored of the Division, and I was thinking like, what can I play now? And then by pure coincidence, one of those cinematic videos for ESO came across my YouTube, and I clicked on it, watched it, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give this a try. So I hit up my brother and told him, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go buy ESO tonight, and he's like, all right, I'll get it too, and that's
What
how I got started on ESO.
do you remember what year this was? Just curious.
It was right after it launched on console. Hang on, let me Google that real quick. It feels like it was 7 or 8 years ago, but I don't think it was that long. Let's see.
Dude, time
ESO,
escapes you, man.
Xbox.
Every time I see or I say 15 years, it just like God, that because like when I was
Yeah.
30, that's like half my life. Like to say that I played WoW for almost half my life,
Whoa,
that's
actually,
that's insane.
sometimes your instincts are on point. So it launched in April 4th, 2014, and um, on I believe, well, actually, it doesn't say if that's on console or not. Windows, PlayStation, Xbox. Oh, that sounds more like it. Okay, Xbox and PlayStation 4 was June 9th, 2015. Okay,
Okay,
so yeah, that was coming up
7 years
on six
ago.
years. Yeah, coming up on 7 years ago. So
Yeah, that's crazy,
yeah,
man.
we really got into it. At first, we played it like we played Oblivion and Skyrim. We were just playing the story, and I did a lot of uh, thieving and Dark Brotherhood quests, stuff like that. But
Right.
once I dipped my toes into PvP, which was ultimately why I was interested in it, I just loved it. The combination of like action with, they don't have tab targeting. I mean, you can lock onto someone, but you can't lock your abilities onto them. So everything
Is action
is
based. Yeah.
is action based, but once it's launched, it'll auto track. So if the
Gotcha.
initial like skill shot is hit, then it doesn't matter what the player does unless they block it or use their dodge ability to dodge it. The amount of movement they have doesn't really matter.
Interesting.
And I just loved it. The combat felt good, it flowed good. As we got better and better at it, we discovered animation canceling, which was something the developers actually didn't intend to have happen with the game, but it did. And they later came out and said, hey, one, we don't really know how to fix this, and two, we think that it's actually a pretty good function. It creates a higher skill ceiling, and so we're going to leave it in the game. And there's all kinds of animation canceling, block canceling, dodge canceling, weapon swap canceling. You can animation cancel light attacks with abilities, and abilities with blocks, and then your light attack gets canceled by a dodge. You can really get into it.
I just hope Ashes does not have that. I mean, no offense to ESO, but I really hope Ashes does not
Well,
have that.
yeah, it's not. I think for the majority of the players, it's definitely better if that doesn't exist.
Right.
Because what it created was, yeah, it's a higher skill like ceiling, but it also made not only the gear difference and just base skill difference between players, like your reaction time, your like sort of your tactics and your ability to juke or predict things that other people are going to do, like that already inherently separates some players from others. But then when you add in another level of people that have played the game so much and perfected all these animation canceling, it just made one person be able to fight, like 1 versus 8, 10, or 12.
Right.
And not just if you were a tank, like you could be a DPS and still effectively like 1vx.
There was
And yeah,
something similar to that in WoW called snapshotting. So basically for dot classes like bleeds or like curse of agony, corruption, whatever kind of dot that was on the target, back in the day, depending on like trinket procs or potion procs or whatever, if you were to cast a dot right before a buff wears out, it snapshots those bleeds or those dots to be at a higher threshold, even though it wears off, and then now your intellect or your attack power is lessened. Those dots are actually at the heightened portion of it, so it was called like snapshotting. So they ended up fixing it. A lot of players at that time didn't like that because they thought, like what you were saying, it's a higher skill ceiling that you need to understand, that before this trinket wears off or before you end this potion, you want to refresh your bleeds at the last possible second to get the full duration of those bleeds even after those potion or the debuff wears off. So yeah, and I mean, honestly, the game's, it's fine. Like it's fine without it. And they basically scale it normally now, so there is no snapshotting anymore. I just think those kinds of levels are, in my opinion, just a little not abusable, but it's just one of those things that I would rather have more customization that is actually built into the skills and to the rotation and to the abilities, rather than these almost like a developer for like miss sites, you know, that they didn't see this being an issue. Just like ESO's developers are like, man, we actually did not catch this and now we can't fix it, or we don't know how to fix it. So it's just like, it's those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But so in ESO, you were a high-end PvPer, but you also became a high-end raider.
Yeah. So along with a couple of buddies, one of which is actually still a high-end raider, he moved from console back to PC, and he now leads one of the top like trial clans or guilds in ESO. Bass Vortex, shout out to him. I've been gaming with him for years and years. He has a twin brother who I met through Destiny, which is how I met Bass Vortex. But yeah, and then my other buddy who's in my guild, Fabled, actually, he's one of my council members, Black
Nice.
Swan. I ran into him in ESO. He played for the opposite alliance, or one of the opposite alliances. There's 3, and he and I used to fight against each other all the time, and we were always pretty evenly matched, and our play styles were pretty similar. We finally just hit each other up one day. We're like, hey, like, you're pretty cool, and we started talking, and he ended up coming to play for my alliance. I made him a deal because I was a bit of a loyalist. I only played for one faction, and a lot of people alliance swap even during the same campaign with different characters. Made it kind of toxic and shitty for
Right.
a lot of people. But yeah, I had a hard rule against playing for another alliance, so I told him, I was like, look, I'll invite you to my guild, but you can't make another alliance character, only on Alderi Dominion. And he's like, all right, and we gamed together for a couple of years. He actually ended up making another one, and I kicked him out of the guild. We're still friends though. Yeah, so he and I were, there's not really an official ranking system in ESO. They have the leaderboards, which are weekly or monthly, depending on what campaign you're in.
Right.
And those are based on the amount of alliance points you gain, which is just based on PvP objectives and kills and stuff like that. You get alliance points. It doesn't really reflect your skill so much as the amount of time you invest.
Right.
I do hold an unofficial record for the most alliance points gained in a single week, at 4.6 million. The highest I'd ever heard of or seen was 4.2 or 4. And that's, I mean, I played for 48 hours straight for the first 2 days of the campaign.
God.
Slept for, this is back when I took a week off work for it.
Jeez.
And
I remember those days.
This is why I call myself a retired hardcore gamer, because I don't do that anymore. But
no. I don't have the energy, man. Like, and that's the thing too, is I think as you grow older, you just sort of feel like you've done that already. It's like a 50-year-old trying to prove they can still drink a keg. It's like, why? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, I did that when I was in my 20s. I don't need to reprove to myself when I'm 50. And even though I'm not 50, I mean, I just think that I like looking at games in a more nuanced and slower approach. And that's actually why I'm just so interested in Ashes of Creation, because there seems to be, it's so involved. And for someone like me who's basically going to play Ashes of Creation because I have work, I have my family, probably in a given week, like after the first 2 weeks, I would say, like if I can get like 2 weeks off to play the initial release of Ashes of Creation, after that, I'll probably be playing Ashes like maybe like 10 hours a week. Like if that, 10 or 12, depending. I mean, because it really just depends on like my work, what we're doing as a family, you know, everything like that. And so a lot of people are always saying like, oh, but I'm a gamer dad and I don't want people to surpass me. I was like, dude, I don't care. I don't care. Like, I know people are going to surpass me. I know people are going to get better than me. They're going to level faster than me because they're going to put more time into the game. And let them. I am totally fine being in last place to do whatever, or you know what I mean, because again, like I did all that. Like I never achieved realm first for leveling in WoW, but there were times where I was really close, and there were times where I was really far away. But all in all, I just want to enjoy this MMO because Ashes is going to be something special in my eyes, and I just don't want to rush through content for what, you know what I mean? Like
I really think that's one of the things that attracts me to the game so much is
right,
because kind of like you're saying, like been there, done that with, like
right.
I still like to be competitive. I'm a very
Oh,
competitive
me too.
person,
I'm a very
but
competitive person.
I also I recognize that I'm no longer at a point in my life where I just can't put enough time and effort to remain in the top 0.1%.
Yeah,
And because I can't, and I know like I was able to at one point, I've lost some of the motivation, and so I prefer now to, instead of stress so much about um, striving to be, as good as possible, just enjoying what I'm doing more.
right.
Which Ash is going to be perfect for that. I think
Agreed.
it's got enough of a blend so that if you want some really hard content from what we've seen of some of the world bosses, the competitive PvP arenas, stuff like that. If you want to get your hands sweaty and really really get out and try hard, you can. But
Bro, I got
also,
my gloves right here, bro. I sweat a lot through my hands.
there
A
you go.
lot.
I gotta get some of those. Yeah, but then also, like I was in the Alpha One. A large part of my time in the Alpha One, I just spent running around the map and exploring and like appreciating the game because it was beautiful, especially for an
Right.
Alpha One.
Oh yeah.
But coming from like ESO, especially on console, I know it looks better on PC, but on Xbox, ESO is a very beautiful game,
Mhm.
half a decade ago. By
Right.
today's standards, it's not as pretty of a game. And so I could just see the potential that Ashes of Creation had when I was wandering around the Alpha 1 map and just killing some mobs here and there, running across different people, checking out the different nodes popping up. It was really just, it kind of took me back to my first MMO, which was RuneScape, where I would go out into the
Right.
wilderness and just explore. Because back then, I was a kid and like I would go out and explore the woods in my backyard just because I enjoyed doing it. And
Right.
so to be able to do that in the game too is just so cool and something I really enjoy. And I'm sort of re-experiencing that, and I'm really looking forward to it.
No, yeah. I mean, it's just, to me, been there, done that. Like, and I see all these like young, like my boy Golid, he's in the forums and stuff like that. And he reminds me a lot of me when I was in my 20s, like super rambunctious, like super analytical, wants to get in deep, wants to be, I don't know if you've seen Golid, but he does a lot of the forum posts or
Yeah, I
Reddit
actually,
posts.
yeah, only recently started getting into Reddit, but I've seen some of his posts, and I also, I listened to your 1v1 podcast with him a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, and he just reminds me a lot of like myself, you know what I mean? And he's an overlord, and he's like, overlord's gonna be like realm first, tier 6 this, and we're gonna have the first castle. And it's just like, I remember that kind of optimism and that kind of like go-getter attitude, like it's just, but I just, I know where I'm at. I know what I am capable of with my time, and I want to be competitive with the things that I want to do. Like, I'm not just gonna, if I want to go in and explore with my guild, I'm gonna do that. If I want to go and help them out, I'm gonna go and do that. But because I know I only have a couple of hours to play, like I want to make that time valuable, but not just
Hmm.
from a min-max perspective, but from a fun perspective. Like, that's the thing too, is that I feel like we've gotten, as a society, for an MMO society and a community, we've gotten very min-maxed with every single possible thing. And I'm just sort of done with min-max, with the most efficient way to do something. I want to
Hmm.
mess up. I want to do the long around way or the wrong way. I want to do all of that stuff, because I think to find it out for myself and not just read a guide to tell me it is the fun. You know what I mean? It's the fun of figuring it out, and that's what made classic WoW, in my opinion, so much fun. Because the internet was still in its infancy. YouTube barely got started in 2005. World of Warcraft launched in 2004. I didn't start playing it to 2006. So it's not like there was YouTube guides and warlock
Mm-hmm.
rotation or warrior rotation
Right.
or whatever, the way it is nowadays. And I know for Ashes of Creation, people are going to be making spreadsheets, people are going to be making YouTube videos and doing all that stuff. And hey, I'm a YouTube content creator myself. Um, I just feel like my content for that is going to be a little bit different. Because again, I can only put in so much time, and then I not only got to be a content creator, but I also got to play the game that I'm making content for. And so
Exactly.
that's like a thing I'm going to have to juggle and stuff like that. So I got to make what I do fun and engaging and not just spreadsheets. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So
I think I actually have a great story, if you don't mind me diving back into ESO for a
no,
second.
man, go ahead.
So one of I genuinely believe, because like I'm not the fastest like reaction time gamer. I'm not tactically the best reaction time gamer. Like there's almost always, no matter how big of a fish you are, there's almost always going to be someone that's better at something than you.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
But one of the things that made myself so effective and good at ESO PvP was I never have been this way. I've never liked to look at guides or videos on how to do something. I prefer to figure out how it works myself.
Right.
And because of that, I end up learning the intricacies of things a lot better than someone that like took ESO is a perfect example. There's a build for any class combination you can think of out there, and
Right.
a lot of them are like best dueling class, Vex 1VX class, and the build for those and everything. But one of the guys I ran across in ESO PvP a lot, he would be considered one of the best duelers on the Xbox server. He was insanely good at 1v1s. But with playing PvP with him, I found out he wasn't that great in a group setting. He wasn't that great in open world PvP, because outside of a duel situation, he only ever played one class, only ever used one build, and it was actually a build that he got from online. He didn't make it himself. And so he is very good at one specific thing. But the second you take him outside of that, his overall ability just plummeted.
Yeah, the scope of what he
And
could do was just diminished after that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And part of why I was, one of the top 10 players on ESO was I knew every single class inside and out. I'd built every character, every way you could build it, and run most of the gear sets in the game on them. I would say I'd probably made over 100 different characters in my ESO time. At the end of the game, when I quit playing, I had 18, which is the max number of character slots you would have. I had 18 max level characters, all geared out, ready to go.
Jesus.
Yeah,
So
but because of the character cap, what I'd do is when I wanted to try out a completely different build, because you have racial passives that often, when you're min-maxing, heavily affect your outcome or the way you build the characters. So I would have
okay.
to either pay for a racial change, which you had to do with real money through the Crown Store, or I could just remake the class. And since I loved PvP, I just leveled through PvP, and I just delete a character, make it a different way. And I just did that over and over and over again.
My
And
God.
yeah, so I
That's
really,
crazy.
I couldn't remember the name of all the sets, but I knew what every set in ESO did. I knew every single skill, what the morphs were, what the damage numbers were, what the defense numbers were. Like, I just spent so much time going through everything over and over again that it was just ingrained in me. And so
Wow.
when I get into a fight, I could tell a lot of times what sets people are running based on the way that they were fighting or procs that I saw going off. And I also had played the same class that they're playing against me. Like, my favorite character was a Stam Sork, so most of the time you'd find me on a Stam Sork in PvP. But if I was playing against a Magicka Dragon Knight or a Stamina Dragon Knight, I'd played that character over and over again. I know exactly how they fight, and so I know how to counter them too. And
Interesting.
that was what made me so good at ESO. But I wouldn't have gotten there, I think, if I had been, you know, looking up my information on how to just put a build together. Because that's just like, here, go get this set in this dungeon, combine it with this set, which you can have someone craft for you, put these enchants on it, run these skills with these morphs, and you're good to go. Like, sure, I probably would have gotten really good at that one class, like that one dueling guy, but my overall knowledge would have suffered heavily because of that. And I'm really hoping that I can do the same thing in Ashes. Of course, I have a lot of information I've gathered because I follow everything Ashes of creation
Right.
that I can. We're all hungry for details out here, so.
Yes, we are, Steven. So listen and please give us something, like anything. Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah.
But yes, I do want
combat win.
Yeah, no, for that. Yes, I think everybody wants to see combat. But
that actually, yeah. Real quick note, that would be the only thing I think that could turn me off of Ashes of Creation is if the combat if it doesn't feel good. I don't really care if they go with a tab or
action
hybrid,
right.
Yeah, or action or some combination of the two, but it just has to feel good.
Well, what did you think of Alpha 1?
They can get that. So I only played the warrior or the tank.
Yeah.
I liked it, but it wasn't. I could tell it wasn't polished yet, and so
right. Well, there was an Alpha 1.
Yeah. And so I'd heard from other people that the other classes like were better or worse. Some say that like playing the tank was the worst, and others said that they liked it, and I kind of fell in the middle where I was like, I can see that. I feel like they had a good base. There's just no polish done at all yet. So I'm confident that they're going to nail it. But with the other systems that are in place and Steven's vision for the game and the ongoing, commitment to make this game as flushed out as his vision for it is, I have no concerns about it being the game I play for the next 10, 15, or 20 years, so long as the end form combat feels good to play.
I get kind of upset, man, and maybe it's just me, maybe it's the way I look at things, but I mean, you're playing an alpha, and I know that I'm not directing this towards you, by the way, but when you're playing an alpha from an indie studio, all you got to find out is the base concept of this class okay? Because if you were to play a class and at the foundational level it feels gross, like nothing about this feels good, everything feels irky, like that's where the real problem is, because that means that where the devs are in a foundational state for this particular class is already completely terrible for the consumer perspective. Because if they're liking that internally and thinking, yeah, this is good, but then the players get a hold of it and they're like, wait, no, this is shit. Like, this is complete ass. Like, then they all, as a collective, as a developer, need to be like, oh, we thought this was good. They don't like it. We need to start fixing this up. We need to start changing. We need to start like literally tearing down the foundation and rebuilding it again. And from what I saw, I think at a foundational level, every class to me was fine. Now, because
I 100% agree with that. Yeah.
And again, this is just off of videos that I saw, and this is this is my opinion. People can think like, oh no, I played it, it was terrible. Well, that's your opinion. But again, I know that this is not polished. I know that the mage was not polished. I know that there were damaging issues and stuff, because they didn't care about numbers and tuning. This was an alpha. This was not meant to really test that. This was to test, is this class fun? Do you like pushing these kinds of buttons for this class? Do you like the procs? Do you like the debuffs? Do you like the way the character moves? Like, do you like the dodging? Like, all of that was basically to test. And everything, like I said, that I saw so far, I'm like, yeah, it's serviceable. Which, again, most alphas sometimes aren't serviceable. Like most other MMOs that you may try at an alpha level, dude, most of those gaming testers are just like, dude, everything's terrible. Like, You go in and it's just rough. Could you imagine
Yeah.
playing New World in its alpha stage? Because
Oh man.
because I guarantee you people did not play New World in its alpha stage. There was probably a private internal test group that tested New World and probably thought
Mhm.
we need work. And they were only working with 3 or 4 buttons, bro. Like, duh. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Well, I feel for the PI testers for Ashes of Creation because they've been here the longest and they've also seen it at its worst.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so like my mention is if the combat's good, like that's really the only thing that might throw a hitch for me. And I
Right.
only say that not because I think that the framework that they have right now is bad. I think it's good. It
Mm-hmm.
just needs polish.
For sure.
But it's that if something fundamentally changes and then I go try it again and I don't like it, and if it doesn't get reverted back, something like that happens, which I don't see that happening. I think they're on a good course, and I think they're going to stay the course they're on.
I would
But
say to expect that. And the reason why I
yeah,
say that is because, again, an alpha, and especially what they're doing, is all about iteration. They are going to try different things to see what sticks for people. Certain things are not going to stick. It doesn't mean it's going to be permanently that way. And that's why I always tell people to go on the forums, make a video, tweet at them. I don't care what you do. But this is
they're listening. Yeah.
exactly. I was about to say, this company listens, unlike, Blizzard or Bethesda or insert corporate company here. They want to make this game as best as possible for you, the consumer. And so I say, like, I am going to expect multiple iterations of classes and different changes that I'm going to like, something I'm probably not going to like at all. But that's the whole testing area. And I think us as gamers, we're not used to testing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I really don't. Like, I think what people are used to is just trying out an early access game, leaving feedback for whatever it is, thinking that whatever they're playing right now is going to be the end product, which sadly turns out to be true. Like, if you played New World in the beginning, when it was like a year before the game actually released, all they were doing was fixing bugs. The foundational what you did in New World still stayed the same. Like, there was no real changes.
Yeah.
All they were really doing the whole time was trying to fix major bugs. And I think players are used to that. They think, but this is not that. This is like clay. We can literally melt this to how we want it to and give the feedback to them. And then we'll try this, just like in Alpha 1, right? People were not liking the root motion. What did Intrepid do? Not even a week later, they gave you all a toggle to go between root motion and split body. I don't know what other company does it that quick. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
It was amazing for me. Now I've only been in one alpha test before, and that was for Destiny actually, and that was very short. I think it was like 2 days or maybe it was longer than that, but the time I was able to play was just 2 days. But it was very short, and there was no like interaction between the devs and the testers.
Sadly,
you
that's
just
what the case
go
is.
in. Yeah, you just go in, you test what they had available, which was very little. So I ran through it a couple of different times, and then if you have any like bugs to report or feedback, you post that, and that was it. The only thing I got back was thanks for the feedback, and like it's received. Meanwhile, here I am in like my second ever alpha, and like the devs and like Steven himself are like popping into the game and talking to players, and the feedback you're giving is immediately being responded to, and some of it, especially like you mentioned, the split body and the root animation, like they just turn around and they're already working on it, and then putting out the results of that work if they're able to right away. And it's so refreshing, like for me because I've I've slowly been less so than a lot of people, I think, because I tend to play one game at a time instead of multiple. But I've slowly been like losing my excitement for the MMO and just gaming industry over the last decade or so.
I think a lot of people
And
have, man. I think we've been
yeah,
burned too many times. I mean, hell, dude, I don't know how it was in ESO. I can't speak to how Bethesda treated you, but I was in a beat-in relationship with Blizzard, for 15 freaking years, let me tell you. And so I like I know, and I call it like battered gamer syndrome, like battered women syndrome. Like it's like battered gamer
yeah,
syndrome
yeah.
because that's literally how it is. Like, because every time I was getting so toxic in myself and even my guild, like we would talk so much shit to Blizzard, about what they needed to fix the game. And it was so easy. It was so apparent what needed to be fixed and never wanted to do anything. And then they'd promise to change. They promised to listen, just like a drunken, husband with a wife beater would say.
Hmm.
And it would be okay for a patch, which is always the final patch of the expansion, to then go right into the new expansion with them not learning a damn thing and rinse
Yeah.
repeat the freaking cycle. And I think again, a lot of people went through, ups and downs like that. And I think with Intrepid, and I want to get into like, when did you find out about Intrepid? Because I started
Okay.
about them in 2020 in July when Asmongold watched the Lazy Peon video, and that pretty much got me
Hmm.
into Ashes of Creation. But you said you were in Alpha 1, so like when did you find out about Ashes of Creation, curiously?
So this is actually one of the sadder moments I've had when it comes to gaming related things. I actually heard about the Kickstarter when it first launched, but
Oh,
at the
nice.
time, yeah, well, but at the time I was really like, you know, uh, excuse my language, but I was balls deep in ESO and just
I, I
enjoying my time there. I was like, oh, this is a game for me. I don't need anything else, and so I ignored it.
wow.
And I actually forgot all about it for a couple of years, and then I heard about it a little bit again. I think around like 2018 or so,
Hmm.
and fast forward, till later in that year, and that was when I first started to kind of lose interest in ESO. I kept playing ESO until around 2019 or so,
Hmm.
maybe closer to 2020. But I w- towards the end of my ESO time, I really started following Ashes more, and then um, like early 2019, I was like, uh, like this is the game I'm gonna look forward to, and really it was just not just the ideas that were in place and the community and stuff, but it was Steven who just seeing the enthusiasm and excitement and feeling the camaraderie with him, and the way he talks about gaming and the state of gaming and everything, that's really what sold me on it. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, I decided, I was like, yeah, this is, I mean, it's a lot, but this is worth buying into the Alpha 1 for me, and I want to help make this game as great as it can be, and I'm just excited to be here for the journey of the development of the game. Of course, I'm impatient for it to come out, but
Aren't we all? Aren't we
yeah.
all? But I mean, just to ask real quick, so was it anything specific? Excuse me. Was it anything specific in ESO that made you quit, or was it just like it just was old hat to you after
Oh,
after a while?
it was a landslide of things. Primarily, like if I had to pick one thing, it would be that um, they would they pretended to listen to the community
Oh,
in
I know what
that,
that feels like.
yeah, in that they would take feedback, and they would even put out statements sometimes about having received the feedback, the changes that they're going to make, or that they were going to try and work on that after this next thing. And what happened, I would say 80-90% of the time, was it didn't happen at all. And then that other like 15-20% of the time, it did happen, but it would happen years later. Um, So like things that players have been asking for, like transmog, it's out called Outfit Station in ESO. Players had been asking for that from day one. It took them, I think, 4 years or maybe more, 4.5 years, to finally put that into the game. And it's not because they didn't think the players wanted it. It was a day one thing. The entire community as a whole wanted it to happen. And you know, a couple of years in, they started saying like, yeah, like we'll work on it. We'll put some out. And then a year goes by, 2 years go by, and then finally, like 2.5 years later, it comes out. And then they're pretty good about pay to win. They have some pay to convenience, which, you know, is not much better, but it's a little bit better.
I was gonna ask, because I'm not an ESO player at all, so there isn't any official pay to win. So in WoW, there's what's called a WoW token, and if you basically pay $20 and you can turn in this token to exchange for gold. Is there anything like that in ESO, or?
So unofficially yes, but officially no. Okay. So, and I can't speak for current day ESO. I haven't been involved or keeping up on ESO for the last couple of years. But at the time I quit playing, you could buy crowns, which are like their online store currency, and then you could gift crown items to people. And originally that wasn't a thing that you could do. They added the gifting in after I'd been playing for like 3 years. So maybe like 2018 or so was when they added that in. But before that, the pay to convenience was just you could buy these scrolls, which increase your XP gain. You could buy like potions and that sort of thing, just convenience items. And then other than that, it was just cosmetics. And then they had the ESO Plus, the monthly subscription, which that was really convenient in that it gives you a craft bag, which you can store all crafted items in. They don't take up space in your inventory. That was huge. It was difficult to be a crafter without craft bags. So if you're a hardcore like player / crafter, you kind of needed the craft bags. You're forced to get the sub. But you could work around it. So I still would consider that pay for convenience, not pay to win. But yeah, once they added the gifting in, then people were spending real money to buy crowns to then gift crown store items to other people for in-game gold. And there's no way to regulate that at all. You can't punish players.
And can you buy gear in the store?
No, you can't buy gear in the store. But due to the high gold value of crown store items, because like you can't buy crown store items with gold. But you could pay another player like, hey, I'll give you 1 million gold if you gift me this really expensive crown store item.
And what items would be there? Was it like transmog items that people wanted?
A lot of it was cosmetic stuff, yeah. So transmog, like outfits, really cool mounts. They have these crates you can buy, which give you a bunch of different goodies. A lot of them are like housing stuff, and some of them are like the coolest mounts in the game. Unfortunately, all come from the crown store. You can't get a cool mount outside of the crown store. Yeah, it's a real shame. Which is doubly a shame because the coolest dyes in the game were behind achievements. The coolest like outfits and stuff like that you could get through in-game, like motif drops. They did so many systems right, but then just had a couple things which they did wrong, and it just kind of ground on your nerves, and then eventually it got the better of me. Especially with the gold thing. Yeah, I mean, you would have, before, being a millionaire in ESO meant something, but after the crown store gifting thing, you had tons of these whales who were just overnight millionaires, and you know that kind of ruined the market, and then ESO just kind of starts slowly sliding off the cliff at that point for me.
Okay, well, let's talk about Ashes, because we haven't really, we talked a little bit about Ashes, but let's really talk about Ashes. So
the juicy stuff.
Yeah, so I want to like talk about your guild. So you're in a guild, and this is an Ashes guild, right? Fabled?
Yes.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Sure. Real quick backstory on it. We were originally founded for, I don't know if you've heard of Bless Unleashed. It was
The MMO?
uh, yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it was
No, I know it.
originally a Eastern MMO, I believe, but it was just
Mhm.
called Blessed. That then got ported over. A studio picked it up and made Bless Unleashed, which was released on console. I forget what year that was. Maybe 2019,
I think so. I mean, you can
something.
actually play it
Yeah.
on Steam now. Yeah,
Okay.
PC.
Oh, it's on PC? Okay.
Mhm.
Originally it only launched on console, which was odd because a lot of people were expecting it to come to PC, and it
Right.
didn't, at least at the time I was playing. But yeah, during the beta of that, my buddy Black Swan, who I played ESO with, he also quit. Um, we decided we wanted to make a guild for Bless Unleashed, and so we met some other people during the beta. We made Fabled. A lot of us were pretty hardcore players at the time, and so we had a really strong start in Bless Unleashed. Made a really nice, like, small kind of community guild. There's about 30, 35 of us. We all got along great, had a good time. We were all competitive, and we had a couple of server firsts, and had a pretty good PvP standing as well. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, Bless Unleashed, another uh, unfortunate, depressing story.
Isn't it
It went
always
on,
with MMOs? Like,
yeah,
it's just one depressing story after another. I mean,
it went off the deep end basically week one. And I was the first one in the guild to quit. I played for about a
mhm.
month, and some of the rest of the guild, some of them hung on for like 2 months, a couple of them hung on for like 3 months, but by the end of like 4.5 months, basically everyone in the guild had quit playing the game. And
Right.
we actually ended up disbanding the guild completely. But then in 2020, when I'd been like keeping tabs on Ash of the
Ashes.
Creation, and like they're starting to speed up their progress at that time, and it was becoming more mainstream thanks to the Lazy
Lazy
Peon
Piano
video.
video.
Yep.
Mhm.
And so when that happened, I had a couple of people from Fabled reach back out to me and be like, "Hey, have you heard about Ash of the Creation?" I was like, "Well, I have actually." And they're like, "Oh, like, well, we're gonna be playing. Like, we thought about making a guild for that." And originally, I wasn't, but then I started thinking more and more, and I was like, "Well, I really like playing with those guys, and even though we all got burned on Bless Unleashed, I feel like we should get the gang back together." And so we did.
Yeah.
We kept the name, kept a lot of our guild structure and everything, and yeah, we're all playing our own games at the moment. Not much of us play together, but we're just waiting for Ashes to come out, and
Right.
we're hoping to have just a really good guild standing within the community. Um, we have zero tolerance policy on toxicity. We want to just be a respected guild. We don't have to be the best guild, but we'd like to be a firm, cornerstone of whatever node location we decide to settle down in. And
Right.
yeah.
I mean, I belong to Axiom, which Axiom is kind of like one of the OG Ashes guilds from back
Oh
in
yeah.
2017. But no, I think guilds are so important. And I guess my first question is, because you're not the guild leader of Fabled, are you?
I am.
Oh,
Yeah.
you are. Okay, that's what I thought.
Well, it is a little interesting. So we have a council system which we use for all major guild decisions.
Right.
I'm the pseudo guild leader in that you kind of need a face for the guild,
Right.
someone for like diplomatic stuff, and as well as once the game launches, the actual guild leader.
Right.
But all major decisions and stuff are made
As a
among the
council.
council. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's the same thing in Axiom. Like Angel Cry is the guild leader, but they make decisions as a council as well. And so I guess my first question, because with guilds in Ashes, it's a little contentious with the size limiter of like,
oh
oh,
yes.
if you're a 50 minus guild, right? So 50 people or less, like you're gonna get a lot of the strong buffs and stuff like that. But if you're a max guild of 300, then you're not gonna have like damage buffs, but you'll have like other bits of utility for
Hmm.
size. And there's also a thing right now where you have to allot points to increase your size of your guild. I think that's frankly stupid, and I'm will keep advocating that until Steven changes it, because I think it is stupid. And if you look at every game that allocates points into increasing guild size, like Lost Ark, it's stupid. And all it does is it fragments your guild. And my whole thing with it is, if you want to allow, and I think 300 is a small size for, especially for Ashes of Creation.
For MMOs, it is small. Yeah, there's a guild in ESO. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but you can be part of 5 guilds in ESO, which is kind of a weird choice. But
well, there's gonna be alliances for Ashes of Creation too. But I mean, it's not like you're gonna be like literally a part of those guilds. But I mean, you will have that kind of neighboring relationship with them and being like, hey, I'm allied with you, so I'm not gonna hurt you or whatever. But the thing is that, like, I think 1,000 is a nice max size, at least in my opinion, to start out with. Maybe it could be 2,000. I don't know. I know Legacy has over 2,000 people right now in their guild. So I mean, in
I
guilds,
think Envious has like I forget. It's a lot though. It's well over 1,000. Might be close to 2,000.
So I mean, my whole thing with this is that, how do you think that allotting points into increasing guild size is, one, a good thing, and two, like, what would you do if you were the developers when it comes to guilds?
So I like Steven's approach to combating zerging through the lack of fast travel.
Right.
A big issue we had in ESO was zerging, because you're always in Cyrodiil, you're always fighting for keeps, and the more keeps your alliance has, the better off your rewards at the end of the campaign.
Right.
Campaigns are just the same map, usually the same players. They reset on either a 30-day timer or a 7-day timer. And then what would happen is you just have one giant zerg on one alliance, or sometimes 2 alliances, just go keep to keep, and they won't play any defense at all. They would just zerg keep after keep after keep and overrun them. The only way to actually combat that was creating zerg bombers. There's a set in the game that increase your damage to there's a skill in the game which increased the damage based on the number of people around it. It was like a bomb. And then on top of that, you could run a set where when you killed a player, they explode and deal AoE damage around them. And so Zerg bombers became a thing. But then the meta became just run a Zerg of tanks. And so you would have a Zerg of like, sometimes 70 people, sometimes, hell, probably even up to 100, of just really high health, high resistance players running around, and they didn't do much damage, but they just mob you down. And it that was really enabled because you could fast travel in PvP.
Right.
And so even though it was a really large PvP map, it became really small, especially when one alliance owned a lot of the keeps, because you use the keeps to fast travel between them.
Right.
And so you could have a group of one of these Zergs of 100 people on one side of the map, 30 seconds later they could be on the other side. I think Ashes has a really good system for that already, so I don't think Zerging is going to be as much of a problem as a lot of people think it will be.
Okay. And so go ahead.
Yeah, so, and to loop that into the guild thing,
right.
I feel like the guild size limitation and like the point system is sort of targeted at doing the same thing, and I don't necessarily think you need both of those.
Agree.
I do like the idea of guild perks and having different guilds have different guild perks,
Me
but
too.
I don't necessarily think that you should be sacrificing a lot to increase your guild size. Like if it's maybe sacrificing the number of points you get in like a guild war, so because you have more members, therefore more people doing the objectives, therefore you don't get as many points, like that might be a way to balance guild v guild wars.
Right.
But that's really the only thing I can see that benefits from that.
I'm kind of hard torn, because again, I understand that smaller guilds want to be small. Like there's some guilds that we only want 50 people, or 30 people, and we're fine with that. Like we are like a mercenary guild, whatever the case is, right? But as soon as you start adding player power to, and believe me, I love the idea of a guild talent tree where you can customize different like utilities or because I think of stuff like, oh, if you mail something to your guildie, it's instant, compared to mailing a letter to someone else, which is, it takes like 6 hours or whatever. I think perks like that are fine, but as soon as you start adding like any kind of player power, you're going to have the legacies and the enviouses making 10 small 50 member guilds and just putting all of the player power in those. And I just don't like that. Like I don't like that segmentation that it then creates, because again, we live in a very min-max society. So don't do that.
I agree.
Just don't do that.
I agree with that 100%, and actually for two reasons. One, the reason you just gave, but also I'm a bit of a vindictive person. So if like there's a guild that I have beef with for whatever reason, I want like if I actually want to target that guild, then anytime I see that guild tag, I'll probably be targeting that person. I don't think I'll be necessarily like a corrupted player all the time, but if I have some reason to really hate a guild, and especially like they're over in my neck of the woods, then they're going to be killed on sight. And the example you gave, like if Axiom splits up into a bunch of different guilds, unless they actually name those guilds like Axiom 1, 2, 3 or something, or use like, I'm not going to know that they're affiliated unless I have like some insider information, or like I've seen them working together before or something like that. I prefer people to have that affiliation to the guild, because your guild matters, your guild reputation matters. Especially in a game like this, like your personal reputation and your guild reputation matter.
Well, so I just think being in a big guild, especially if you like being in a big guild, the reason why you like being in a big guild is because you have a lot of people that are options to do content with. As soon as you start purposefully segmenting that guild for out of min-max reasons, you're limiting the amount of options people have to run content with, because now they're going to have, instead of having the guild UI to look at, oh, who's online, if there's not going to be a kind of UI for all 9 of their other guilds that are only 50 members because they want the most perks, in the guild, it just makes it harder for people to do content with, especially in a game where it's really incentivized to group up with others. And I just think that kind of segmentation is just, it's irky. Like it's not needed at all. And I think there could be utility points that aren't power gains that you would not mind at all for being like a plus 50 guild or a plus 100 guild or a plus 1000 guild. And I think it's just a matter of finding that balance within the talent tree, because I'm still advocating for a talent tree for guilds, for a type of point system that the guilds earn that they can allocate those points in to customize different ways, you know what I mean, to do certain things as a guild. I think those things are important. Like, I don't know. I mean, and again, like I'm trying not to think of anything like power wise, but again, because all of these systems are so intertwined, that there might be activities or events that actually make you faster at or just a little bit better at, but with no additional power gain. Like maybe caravans can be like 5% increase in movement speed because you allocated a point. So now that any caravan you run as a guild, it's 5% faster. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have to be like a 5% damage increase or whatever.
And unique things like that also cater to diversity between guilds. So like if you have a trader focused or like mercantile focused guild, that would be exactly the type of perk you would want. Whereas like say there's a guild that really likes just guild wars, like they want to be on the leaderboards for like most guild wars won on the server or something like that. Maybe there could be some perks where they like it allows them to be at war with an extra guild. So say, I don't know if they'll have a limit to this or not, but say you're allowed to be at war with like 3 guilds at a time. Well, maybe one of their talents, the guild talents, could be they could be at war with up to 5. And so then it gives them more like of these wars that they can have ongoing all the time to rack up their guild war wins or something.
Right.
Different specializations that are unique and not kind of across the board things.
Yeah, like any kind of power gain. Because I
Yeah,
think ultimately that's what
exactly.
guilds are looking for, and they don't want to feel restricted on day one of, oh, we can only invite this many people into our
Hmm.
guild. Like that's just, I don't know. I experienced that playing Lost Ark, and it was the weirdest thing. And the fact that we had to level our guild to increase it by 3 or something like that in Lost Ark. I can't remember how. But it just was unnecessary. And for what? That's not fun. Like, oh,
Hmm.
we're increasing our level, guys. We can invite 3 more people. Like, it's just like what? Like, I don't
Well,
know.
and a perfect example I think would be like with ESO's guild system. You could be in 5 guilds. I was in all 5. One of them was my own PvP guild, and there was
Mhm.
only like 12 people in it because I only played with those people. I liked small group
Right.
versus small group, or small group versus big group. I
Right.
didn't like big group versus big group PvP. But for PvE stuff, I since I didn't have many friends that PvE'd, when I needed to get gear for a new character, I needed like a guild that had a lot of PvE players for that. And I was in this guild called Prisoners. They had a weekly dues of 10,000 gold to be in the guild,
Damn.
but they're a massive guild. Like I think they had around 1,000 people or so, like 900 something.
Wow.
Um, and it was great because I could just hop into guild chat, be like, "Hey, does anyone want to run this dungeon or go farm this world boss? I'm looking for these sets." And because there's enough people in that guild, I could almost always get a couple people or a few people to go do that.
Right.
Whereas I would have never been able to do that in like a guild of 30 or 40 people. There just wouldn't be enough people online that are also interested in doing the same thing. Um,
Right.
so yeah, there's definitely like there's benefits that both the hardcore and the casual player gets being part of a larger guild. Now, some people don't like large guilds, and that's
Right.
fine. But yeah, I don't think large guilds should be punished. And
Very true.
a big thing, so many people are worried about, like, oh, like the mega guilds are gonna run the server. If a mega guild can pull that off, because I've been part of a mega guild. I've even led, well, I was the co-leader of a mega guild
Mhm.
back in the day. And if you're able to pull that off, then like I'm clapping my hands because that's impressive as hell.
Right.
Organizing that many people, getting that much of a like crowd enthusiasm towards working towards the same goal. Because when you have 40 people in a guild, it's easy to get 35 of them to want to do the same thing. But if you're in a guild of 500 people, it's really difficult to get 350 of those the same ratio. 350 of those to do the same thing, especially day in, day out. They're going to want to wander off and do their own things. So if you're coordinated enough to take over a server with a giant like 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 man guild, then you should be able to, because that's impressive as hell.
Well, I mean,
Um,
it's true
yeah,
because most people that say that, oh, mega server or mega guilds are going to run the server have never been in mega guilds. And
exactly.
it's dude, the amount of personality clash that you get into 100 people being on
Hmm.
all the time is insane. You double that, you times that by 10. Are you kidding me? Like you said, if they could literally pull off that kind of coordination, they deserve to run the freaking server.
Right, yeah.
But again, is it sustainable? And most of the time the answer is no, because again, you're especially in a game like Ashes, which I've always said it's unofficially going to be the Game of Thrones MMO. There's going to be a
Hmm.
lot of backstabbing. There's going to be a lot of, talking behind people's back. There's going to be a lot of, I can do it better than her or him. And dude, like I think of Asmongold every single time because when he did Classic WoW again, his Olympus guild, he had 11 Olympus guilds. And there was a huge drama that happened and like 8 of them just disbanded. And it was like insane. And again, it's
Uh,
because of personality clashes.
I don't know enough about WoW. What's the Olympus Guild?
Oh, that was just Asmongold's guild that he made, and
Oh, okay,
people
okay.
wanted to be in his guild, so there was like
so he made like 11 of them. Okay.
right. So there was the original Olympus that he was in, and then there was like 11 other spawns of the Olympus faction. And again, when you have that many people, it just personalities clash. People think you don't know what you're doing. I can do it better. And then internal strife happens. And that's what Steven talks about with big guilds, is that those big guilds then fracture into 2 other guilds or 3 other guilds or 5 other guilds. You know what I mean? And because they're like, oh, we used to be part of this guild, but the guild leader didn't know what he was doing. So we broke off and made our own guild. And now we're doing this and da 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 da. And that happens naturally over time. And the other thing about it too, with being in a big guild, is that once you are the center of attention, every other guild is going to be gunning for you. So what's going to happen is that people are going to end up being killed because they're a part of the big guild, and they're not as allegianced to their guild as others. So those people will be like, I'm tired of being grief, man. I'm just going to G quit and go to a smaller guild. Like I'm tired of, having people like hate me because I'm in this guild, or, whatever. Like I don't care. So then the guild starts to bleed. You know what I mean? And again, that also happens with big guilds, but you would never know that if you were never a part of one. And especially again in a factionless game like Ashes, there's going to be a lot of stuff.
Yeah, the drama, I think it was you that said in one of your podcasts, you referenced in relation to AOC drama and like the politics and everything, you called it spicy, and I thought that was the best illustration I've heard.
It is,
it's like, yeah, it is gonna be very spicy.
It is like, it's gonna be one of those things where people aren't ready for the kind of drama that's gonna happen, and I'm all for it too, because that's gonna be content for Twitch streamers, YouTube creators, like, and everybody is literally just broadcasting this drama for the public to go into. I mean, look at it, just the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp stuff. That's gonna be like in Ashes of Creation, that's gonna be a blip compared to the overall guild drama, even people drama, whatever. Like, there's just gonna be so much stuff that I just cannot wait for, if these systems can interconnect in a way that feels good. Because again, a lot of these things feel good on paper. I want to see them in practice. I want to see, can this feel good in the open world? Will corruption feel kind of terrible to get, which it should. It's a punishment. Yeah. Corruption is a punishment. It should feel terrible. And that's the thing I feel with PvEers. I have a lot of my friends from WoW are like, bro, I'm not gonna play Ashes of Creation. Fuck that. I'm not gonna be in some forced PvP game. Screw that noise. And I'm just like, bro, you don't know what corruption is. I know, because in World of Warcraft, there is no corruption. There is no penalty for being grieved. But in Ashes, there is a lot of penalty for killing someone that did not want to fight. And again, that wasn't really tested at all. I don't think in Alpha 1, they didn't have corruption, I don't think. At least
hardly. I mean, you could go red, but you didn't have the
penalties.
I think you still had like the experience debt from being killed. I felt like it was more extreme, but I don't have anything like to back that up. It just felt more extreme. But you didn't have the chance to drop gear. You didn't have stat dampening, or if you did, I was never red long enough to feel it.
Notice it.
I only went red a couple of times just to test it out. Yeah, see what it was all about. I know some people did a lot of the PKing, and actually a couple of people got banned because of it. they were told to stop because they're just PKing people right outside town, just over and over, and people right outside where you spawn in. And I think it was Steven himself, or maybe it was Margaret, but someone like did an announcement and said, hey, like, this needs to stop. If we see it again, we're gonna start banning people. And a couple of people kept doing it and they got banned. I think they might have gotten kicked out of the program, or the Alpha 1 anyway, but I'm not.
Well,
don't quote me on that.
That's gonna be something that they gotta fix, because again, I think there should be areas that are completely you're unable to attack anybody. there should be safe zones like that. And I think starting areas is a great example of where you need those safe zones, because
Mm-hmm.
you're literally starting your journey. Like, this is the first step into this new world. You shouldn't have anything be a distraction to you than the world itself, the mobs in the world, and the quests. Like, that's just my opinion. I know people want to PvP as soon as possible, but I would not mind if you couldn't PvP to level 10. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
if
I
you
think
are
that's the way ESO does it. You can't even
right,
enter Cyrodiil until you're level 10. I think it's a good
right,
system.
because
Works well.
you should have an experience that shows you the game first. Like, because it would be really stupid if you literally go into a world and already people want to fight you at level 1. And it's like, dude, I don't even know what my abilities do. I just logged in, you know, and you have people like,
I figured out how to light attack or like
yeah,
weapon attack 3 seconds ago.
it's gonna be a bad time. So I do think, and people are like, no, they shouldn't do that. No, they absolutely should. Like Intrepid, do
I
this
agree.
at every
Yeah.
starting zone, or just make it to where you cannot, if you are a level 9 through 1, you cannot attack any, like if you're a level 50, you cannot even target a level 9 or 1. You can only target like level 10 through on up. So you basically leave the people that are just started alone entirely.
Yeah,
And
I think that would be a better way to do it, especially with the
Right.
way the nodes work. So like
Right.
if the node right outside that would be the starting area gets developed into a metropolis, it would still be nice if like the level 50 players could go duel outside.
Right.
So eliminating the PvP zone, I don't think is the way, but yeah, like you said, I think just disabling PvP up until at least like 10 would be a good way to help with that.
Right. And I think eventually, like once we get our bearings in a little bit, then we can start to determine, are people griefing level 10s? At least they're not griefing level 1s, but are they griefing level 10 players? And we can get into that like 6 months after Ashes of Creation releases.
Yeah, and then
But-
that's when like tweaking the corruption system will really come into play. 'Cause
Right.
if you can tweak it right to make it enough of a deterrent, then that in itself will
Right.
like Wild West style, like rule of law, prevent it from happening. Not that it won't be possible, but it just won't be worth it.
Right. Because I think it's just one of those things where I don't want them to be too heavy-handed with corruption. I want them to tweak, like I want it to feel punishing at the start, and then we can slightly tweak. I don't want these massive changes of corruption from one pendulum swing to the other, and
Yeah.
it's these really wonky changes of corruption. I would like them to keep testing and be like, okay, we heard your feedback that corruption is too punishing. Can you give us more feedback onto where it specifically feels too punishing, so we don't make these broad, like sweeping changes and just nerf it all, and then it's, oh, we went too hardcore, we gotta buff it, and you know what I'm saying? Like I think they need to be very, very conservative to how they manage the corruption system.
Yeah.
But
I think they have a good system if they do actually take the feedback, look at the data, because they can look at the back end reports of like how many level 50, like you mentioned, how many level 50 players are PKing level 10s and 15s and 20s and
Right.
so on. So if they actually take the time and really smooth it out, it'll be great, because you can tweak it in multiple ways. You can tweak it on the amount of corruption you get based on the level difference.
right.
You can tweak it on the amount of corruption you give on the first kill and on this consecutive kill after that, so second, third, fourth, fifth kill.
Right.
And then you can also tweak it on the amount of stat dampening that it gives the corrupted player. So
Right.
between those three things, I feel like you can get a really good blend that balances it very well, and doesn't make it too punishing without actually making it soft enough that you have rampant PKing.
Right. Well, let me just and I always like to end this off with asking, like, why do you believe in Ashes of Creation and stuff like that? But I'm gonna let you, like, what's one thing that you feel like we didn't, because we could talk for like, I'm sure, for 4 or 5 hours about
I
Ashes of
didn't see
Creation.
the time. Yeah, we've been talking a minute.
Right. But is there anything specific that you want to chat about before we end it all off?
maybe just another point to add into like the PKing. I have, and not that I've heard this on your 1v1 podcast. I just between content creators and the AOC Discord and stuff.
Right.
And maybe just the MMO player base in general across all games. There seems to be a like an idea that true like diehard PvPers are the same thing as griefers, or that a lot of griefers are diehard PvPers, and I don't agree with that at all. I've always been a PvPer. I don't really play single player games. I just like the competition of testing myself against other real live people. Even PvE, unless it's challenging enough to give me a rush. I don't really like PvE content outside of like exploring.
Oh,
But
dude,
yeah,
yeah.
so I've had almost 2 decades of PvP like love and experience, and from the people I've met and the people I've talked to, and just witnessing it, the people that actually love PvP and are coming to Ashes of Creation to PvP, they aren't going to be PKing people. In some, rare situations, they will be, sure. Like if I'm trying to harvest some resource and someone comes up and tries to steal it, I might PK them. But there's also a chance they'll try and fight me for it, in which case we just have a good duel and may the best
Right.
man win.
Right.
But like a true PvPer is here to test their skills against another player, and killing someone that doesn't want to fight them, therefore giving them corruption, doesn't give them any enjoyment. And so, yeah, I just like to get that message out there for people that don't be concerned about the PvP player base coming to Ashes as more corruption happening. Griefers will exist, of course, they do in every game. But a lot of the bounty hunters are going to be the people that come to Ashes for PvP because they want to go hunt down those bounty hunters and have a good fight, because the bounty hunter knows that corrupted player is going to fight back, and so they want to go test their skill against them, see who's the better fighter, and put them in their place if they can.
No, I'm really excited for the PvP, and I think again, people need to just see what Ashes of Creation offers. I think the game overall. Now, I am not a forced PvP, full loot PvPer person myself. Like I don't go and play Mortal Online 2 in my spare time. That's just not what I enjoy. But Ashes of Creation to me is more than that, because again, as a player that isn't going to fight back, and I actually want to be the hero. I don't know, like I in World of Warcraft I was the Horde, which, not saying the Horde was the villain or anything like that, but I want to be a good person in my server. I want to be known as the person that, dude, that guy's awesome because he saved me whenever I was getting like I was gonna get ganked out in the woods, and this guy helped me. Like that's the guy I want to be in my server. And I understand the whole arena rush, because in World of Warcraft I did 2v2, 3v3 in Burning Crusade and in Wrath, and that tickle in your balls sensation whenever you killed that one rogue and there's one person left to kill, and you're like, it's on, and you're there killing them, and it's like 10% health, and then you're at 10% health and you didn't realize it, and you're like, oh my god, and then your cooldown's on cooldown, and then you go around the corner and you gotta do your healing pod and blah, blah, blah. Like, I love that sensation, that adrenaline filled sensation. And I understand people are looking for that, in Ashes of Creation. So I do agree with you. I don't think that every PvPer that's hardcore PvP is going to be a griefer. That's not what my perception is. But I do appreciate you trying to outline that, because I think a lot of PvE players have that impression that if you really love PvP, I'm afraid of you because you're going to gank me. Well, no, not necessarily. Like, some people don't want to. It's like a 18-year-old messing with a 5-year-old physically. Like, is the 5-year-old really going to put up a challenge? Like, no. You want to fight someone that's, mano a mano. You want to go 18-year-old to 18-year-old or whatever, or 18 to 19-year-old or 18 to 17-year-old. But I mean, you want it to be as much of a fair fight as possible. And so, no, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, the best, most thrilling moments I think I've had in gaming were going toe to toe with someone that like I felt like they were just slightly better than me,
Hmm.
but I was performing slightly better than usual,
Right.
and so I felt like we were perfectly matched, you know, because you always want to beat someone that should beat you.
Right.
That underdog feeling like that gives you an extra rush. So you always want to fight someone slightly better, but you still want
Right.
to come out on top. And
Right.
so, yeah, those are always the best fights. Like in ESO, especially towards the end, like once I became one of the better players in the server, um, I only wanted to fight the other good players in the server. And, you know, small group versus small group or one versus one, like going out and just murking a bunch of random players that, you know, of course they're in the PvP zone, so they're there to fight, but
Right.
they didn't want to fight me because they recognize me. They know that, you know, like I'm not someone they want to take on, and so a lot of them would just avoid me, and that was fine because
Right.
it got you know just boring, and like I didn't have any type of rush or excitement unless I was squaring up to someone I knew was going to be a fight.
Right. Well, dude, this was actually a really awesome conversation. I'm so glad you reached out to me on Discord. And did you want to like do a little shout out to your guild, like guild name, where they can find you
Um,
guys, everything like that?
Actually, well, of course, shout out to you. Thanks for having me on. And
For sure.
guys, if you haven't checked out his like his YouTube outside of his 1v1 podcast, I'd recommend that. Also, a
Oh.
little note to you. I really liked your series where you were like the 5 things you don't want to see or the 5 things like
Oh,
you're looking forward to the most. I think if you did
right.
more like 5, um, of this or that, it would be cool. Those were short, kind of quick hop through a couple things. Those good
Right.
videos.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, but yeah, I would also like to give a shout out to a good buddy and fellow guild leader, Azrael. Unfortunately, he's not going to be playing on North America with me. He'll be on EU. Um, but yeah, he's also got a YouTube channel and he's got
Hmm.
some good stuff on there. So go check him out. And yeah, I look forward to playing Ashes of Creation, and hopefully I'll see you and other people in Alpha too.
For sure. And guys, I'll have the guild link in the description below. So if you want to hop into their Discord or anything like that, I will have stuff in the bottom for Fabled. And again, my name is Vlhadus. This is Baneful Tiger. This is the 1v1 podcast. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.